I got a few questions for you to think about here as we kind of look more into this topic. How are thought and language linked? Which one do you think comes first, thought or language? And how, if any, how dependent is each process on the other? Or how dependent is thought on language? Or how dependent is language on thought? Interestingly enough, cognitive neuroscience and reports from some with disabilities, specifically those with autism spectrum disorder and the deaf and hard of hearing community, they really believe that they can be separated and developed independently. So we're going to look at these theories. Some theorists, Pinker and Piaget, these language theories that they are known for is that language and cognition, Pinker says they're not related, that language is just an instinct. Piaget says language is totally dependent on cognition. So they say evidence shows that some language milestones occur simultaneously with sensory motor development. And so they're saying if language occurs at the same time, then that is not needed for language to happen because then it would have to come first. The emergentist theory, which is also called the connectionist theory or network theory, and that's what we've kind of already talked about, is going to ask, I want us to look at this and say, how is this theory going to help us understand the connection between cognition and language? Vygotsky, another theorist, stated language and cognition are interdependent, that language development occurs because of social interaction, and then that eventually becomes internalized. And so thought and language begin to merge. That allows abstract thought and reasoning. And when they coincide, when they intersect, a highly efficient and effective system for learning is created. So they believed it was interdependent. I have a little experiment here. I want you to ask yourself, I'm just going to say, do you think these colors are the same? Yes or no? Do you think these colors are the same? If you said yes, then how can we explain these different names, right? Chantilly lace, super white, simply white, extra white, white dove. So by that, language is differentiating them. They're not all the same. So if you said yes, they're the same. Now if you said no, they're not all the same, but you didn't know these names for them, then how did you know that they weren't all the same? If that makes sense. So you knew you could tell me no, they're not, but then I'd say, okay, what's this color? And you might have said white, and then I'd go to the next one and I'd said, okay, what's this color? And you would have said white, and so I would have said, well, maybe that's the same, right? So it's interesting when we think about it that you can think something without having the language to describe it. You could think something, you could think, no, these are not the same, even though you didn't have that language, even though you didn't have those titles. You have thought without language. Moving toward the social basis of language. Again, this cannot be understated, its significance, pragmatics, and the social language. We know that physiological development is necessary for language development, meaning you have to develop your articulators and your lungs and your trachea, all those parts of your anatomy that have to be there to, parts of your brain and your nervous system that have to be intact for you to actually speak. But what about a child who grew all of those things but was never exposed to language? would physiological development be enough to carry them through? And this is where the next video you're going to watch is about Jeannie. Jeannie was found physiologically intact, but look at this and you're going to think to yourself, was it enough?